Have you ever reached a point in life where instead of longing for companionship, you crave silence, freedom, and a life without compromise? For many people entering their later years, the idea of growing old with a partner has long been painted as the ultimate dream. Two people walking hand in hand into the sunset of life. But reality often paints a more complicated picture. While some older adults find deep peace and joy in companionship, others quietly endure the weight of a relationship that no longer feels nourishing. In truth, having a partner later in life isn't always the blessing we assume it is. Sometimes it becomes a subtle, creeping burden, one that drains energy, restricts choices, and adds unnecessary tension to what should be a peaceful chapter of life. If you've ever sat across from your partner at the breakfast table and wondered if your relationship takes more than it gives, you're not alone. In this video, we're diving deep into 5 eye-opening reasons why having a partner in old age might actually make life harder, not easier. But before we begin, let's be clear. This isn't about shunning love or discouraging meaningful companionship. It's about seeing the full picture, understanding how relationships evolve with age, and recognizing what you truly need to feel fulfilled in your later years. Stay with me until the very end, because what we're about to explore may forever shift the way you view relationships in the second half of life. Reason number 1, the emotional burden of constant compromise. As we grow older, our emotional bandwidth narrows. The energy we once poured into adapting, smoothing over conflict, or keeping the peace becomes more precious. And yet, being in a long-term relationship often demands ongoing, unspoken compromises. When you're younger, it might feel normal, even expected to change your habits, defer your preferences, or suppress your desires for the sake of harmony. But in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, the cost of these daily adjustments starts to outweigh the benefits. Suddenly, the compromises feel heavier. The little negotiations, what to eat for dinner, what to watch on TV, how to spend a Sunday afternoon, turn into quiet battles that leave you emotionally worn out. Take Robert, for example. At 74, he spent decades accommodating his wife's preferences. From their meals to their travel plans, he's always been the one to adjust. Now all he wants is to enjoy a slow, quiet morning with a cup of tea and a newspaper. But every day his wife insists on blasting the television the moment she wakes up. It seems like a small thing, but over the years, these moments stack up, building silent tension and inner fatigue. This is the emotional tax of compromise, a tax that many older adults continue to pay long after the relationship has stopped enriching their lives. What's more, emotional caretaking doesn't go away with age. In fact, it often intensifies. You may find yourself constantly managing someone else's moods, reassuring them, apologizing for things you didn't do, or tiptoeing around conversations to avoid friction. And all the while, your own emotional needs go unmet. Relationships like this aren't always loud or obviously toxic, but they drain you slowly, quietly. And that's exactly why they're so dangerous. By this stage in life, peace of mind should be sacred. Yet many remain in relationships out of routine fear or guilt, rarely stopping to ask, am I truly happy or is this still serving me? The hard truth. If your relationship leaves you feeling depleted instead of uplifted, it's no longer a safe harbor. It's a storm you've learned to navigate by habit. Reason number 2, the loss of true independence. What does independence really mean in your golden years? For many, it's the long-awaited reward after decades of sacrifice, raising children, managing careers, maintaining households. It's the freedom to finally live life on your own terms without constant obligations to others. But that independence can quietly disappear if you're still entangled in the rhythms of a partner's life. Being in a relationship, even a good one, means your time choices and energy are never fully your own. You coordinate calendars, check in before making plans, and often have to justify or explain simple desires. Want to take a spontaneous trip, you'll likely need to negotiate it. Interested in trying a new hobby, you'll probably have to consider how it fits into your shared schedule. Now that kind of mutual consideration can be beautiful when you are both willing participants. But when your spirit is quietly longing for freedom, those same dynamics can feel suffocating. Frank, a 78-year-old widower, discovered this in an unexpected way. After a long and loyal marriage, his wife passed away. At first, he was lost, unsure how to fill the quiet space she left behind. But slowly, he began to rediscover himself. For the first time in decades, Frank woke up when he wanted to. He ate what he liked. He read novels late into the night without worrying about someone else's sleep schedule. And as days turned into weeks, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, a deep, unshakable sense of freedom. He realized with equal parts joy and sorrow that his life had always been shaped by someone else's preferences, even in small, invisible ways. Now he was finally the author of his own days. This kind of revelation isn't uncommon. Many older adults, especially those who've spent a lifetime caring for others, don't even realize how deeply their independence has eroded until they're alone again. Not lonely, but alone in a way that feels empowering. Of course, not all relationships stifle autonomy, but many do even unintentionally. When you're constantly making decisions as a unit, it's easy to lose touch with your individual identity. You stop asking what you want because you're so used to thinking in terms of we. And let's not forget the mental independence that quietly dissolves over time. Years of compromise can blur your opinions, dampen your voice, and leave you wondering, is this what I actually believe, or just what we've agreed on together? In the next part of this video, we'll explore 3 more powerful reasons why relationships in later life can become more burden than blessing, including how long-term partnerships often shift your identity, affect your health, and limit your emotional growth. But before we get there, pause and ask yourself, are you truly living life as you or as one half of a system you no longer recognize? If that question stirs something inside you, stay with me. What comes next might just help you reclaim the freedom, clarity, and peace you didn't even know you were missing. In the last section, we explored how relationships in old age can quietly erode our independence, not through conflict, but through the slow fading of personal freedom. Now let's look even deeper into the emotional toll that often goes unnoticed, until you're finally alone. Because when you are truly alone, not lonely but alone, you gain something. Many people never realize they've lost the undiluted purity of your own thoughts. There's no need to filter your words, no pressure to accommodate, no silent negotiation happening in the background of every decision. You remember often with a kind of quiet joy what it feels like to do things purely because you want to without worrying how it fits into someone else's mood or routine. Choosing what to eat, when to sleep, what music to play, or even how to spend an entire day suddenly becomes a deeply personal experience again. Independence, after all, is not just about living in a house by yourself. It's about navigating your days without invisible restraints, about moving through life freely, without that subtle obligation to always adjust, compromise, or explain. And here's the truth, the longer you've been in a relationship, the more conditioned you become to these small, unspoken adaptations. You stop noticing them because they feel like second nature. But when those obligations fall away, when you no longer have to constantly calibrate yourself to someone else's needs, you may feel a surprising sense of relief, even liberation. In your later years, that freedom isn't selfish, it's sacred. The ability to make a choice without hesitation, to follow your impulses without discussion or debate, becomes one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. If this resonates with you, if something in your heart is quietly nodding, please comment number 2 below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, take a moment to do that now and hit the bell icon. Your support helps us continue creating thoughtful content that informs, inspires, and gently challenges the way we see ourselves. Now let's move forward. Reason number 3, the emotional exhaustion that comes from constant compromise. At first, relationships feel warm, fulfilling, and supportive. They offer comfort, security, shared laughter. But as the years go by, especially in older age, you may find that they also demand something you're less willing or less able to give: constant emotional compromise. It's not dramatic. It doesn't happen all at once. It's quiet, gradual, a slow, persistent drain that you might not even recognize until you've stepped outside of it. Take Robert, for instance, a 74-year-old man who spent most of his life married. He deeply loved his wife. Their bond was strong. But over the years, he noticed that his life wasn't entirely his own. He routinely gave up little things: watching movies. He didn't care for dining at restaurants. He didn't enjoy rearranging his day to fit her rhythm. None of these choices felt particularly heavy at the time, but over decades they added up. And after his wife passed away, Robert expected to feel overwhelmed with loneliness. Instead, he found himself enveloped in something unexpected: peace. Suddenly, he could do what he wanted when he wanted. He no longer had to consider how every decision might affect someone else. It wasn't that he had stopped loving his wife, it was just that he had underestimated how draining it had become to constantly adjust to always compromise, even in the smallest ways. And here lies a truth many people avoid when you're young. Compromise is a noble part of love. It builds character. It teaches patience. But in old age, when your energy is limited, your time more precious, compromise can feel like a burden you're no longer willing to carry. At a stage in life when you should be resting, reflecting, and truly enjoying the freedom you've earned, the demands of a relationship can feel heavier than ever. Every shared decision, what to eat, how to decorate, when to schedule doctor's appointments, requires coordination, sometimes even disagreement. And it's not just the effort, it's the mental load of always considering someone else before yourself. You may not realize how much of yourself you've been giving away until you finally stop negotiating every move. Even the tiniest things like whether to keep the bedroom window open at night can become recurring friction points. It wears you down in ways that don't show on the outside but accumulate on the inside. As you get older, the value of peace, the peace that comes from making decisions without resistance or the need to justify them, becomes one of life's rarest luxuries. You no longer want to defend your choices. You no longer have the energy to suppress small irritations for the sake of harmony. And the greatest relief, simply being yourself, fully, without edits, without tiptoeing, without waiting for someone else to sign off on your happiness. Reason number 4, the hidden burden of caretaking. No one talks about. When people imagine love in later life, they often picture two people growing old together, supporting one another through thick and thin. And yes, sometimes that vision comes true. But there's another side, one we rarely talk about. One that's heavy, relentless, and often heartbreaking. The burden of caretaking. When a partner's health begins to decline, as it often does in old age, the romanticized vision of mutual support can quickly shift into something else entirely, a full-time, emotionally and physically exhausting role that consumes your entire being. Take James, for example. At 77, he had been married for over 5 decades when his wife fell ill. At first, he stepped in willingly, and of course he did. He helped her with the little things, medication reminders, doctor's appointments, emotional comfort. But as the months passed and her condition worsened, James's own health began to unravel. He wasn't sleeping. He lost weight. He felt anxious all the time. His days revolved around medications, emergencies, monitoring symptoms, and hiding his own pain. What had started as an act of devotion became an all-consuming obligation. Sadly, James's story is not unique. When one partner becomes ill, the other is often expected to shoulder the entire burden of care. While this may seem noble and often is, it comes at a steep cost. Studies consistently show that elderly caregivers suffer higher rates of depression, anxiety, and even chronic illness themselves. The irony is painful. By the time one partner passes, the other is often left depleted physically, mentally, and emotionally. Sometimes they're in worse condition than if they had lived alone. And even if both partners are relatively healthy, there's still a constant undercurrent of worry. Is she eating enough? Did he take his pills? When's our next doctor visit? What if something happens while I'm asleep? These silent concerns, day after day, take their toll. Meanwhile, many older adults who live independently find themselves avoiding this burden altogether. They can prioritize their own health, their own peace, without the invisible weight of another person's needs constantly on their shoulders. Because freedom in old age isn't just about solitude, it's about preserving the strength and clarity to care for yourself without collapsing under the weight of someone else's decline. Previously, we explored the hidden weight that caretaking can place on your shoulders in later life, how even love can become a heavy burden when health begins to decline. Now let's turn our attention to another layer that many rarely talk about yet, affects countless people as they grow older, the unexpected financial and emotional toll that late life relationships can carry. Number 5. The financial and emotional strain of late life partnerships. At first glance, having a companion in your golden years seems like a dream. People imagine warm cups of tea shared over quiet mornings, laughter echoing through cozy rooms, and the comfort of someone by your side as the years roll on. But beneath that romantic ideal lies a reality that can be far more complicated, one marked not only by emotional demands, but also by financial strain. You see many seniors step into relationships in their 60s, 70s, or even 80s with the hope of finding connection and companionship. But what they don't always anticipate is how merging two lives also means merging two financial realities, realities that are not always equal. Take Robert, for example. At 80 years old, he had already been widowed for more than a decade. During those years alone, he found peace. He lived modestly but comfortably on his pension and savings, enjoying hobbies, tending to his garden, and finally spending money the way he wanted without having to consult or compromise with anyone. Life was simple, and it was his. Then in his mid-70s, he met someone new. She was kind and warm, and their companionship brought him joy at first. But soon the practical side of things crept in. His new partner had her own financial struggles, debts, limited retirement income, and even adult children who occasionally needed help. Without planning for it, Robert found himself covering more than his share utility bills, medical costs, even lending money to support her family. At first, these expenses seemed small, an extra grocery trip here, a new prescription there. But over time, they accumulated. Before he realized it, he was dipping into savings he had carefully preserved for years. What began as companionship quietly morphed into an unspoken financial obligation. He wasn't just sharing his life, he was sharing the stability he had spent decades building. And Robert's story is far from unique. Many older adults enter late-life relationships believing that love will smooth everything over, but soon discover the financial entanglements can create more stress than comfort. When one partner is significantly more financially secure than the other, it can lead to tension, imbalance, and even resentment. Disagreements about spending medical bills or how to handle inheritances can fracture the emotional foundation of a relationship. And the emotional strain doesn't end there. Some seniors feel trapped, unable to leave an unhappy or unhealthy relationship because they fear starting over financially or worse, being alone. Others stay because they feel obligated, having already invested so much emotionally and economically. It's a quiet, unspoken pressure, one that chips away at peace of mind. Even simple day-to-day decisions become complicated. Should you spend that money on a vacation or save it in case your partner's health declines? Do you help pay their bills or preserve your funds for your own future care? These aren't just financial questions. They are deeply emotional ones filled with guilt, fear, and a sense of responsibility that can feel overwhelming. But what happens when you choose to remain single? For many seniors who decide to live independently, the experience is completely different. They often report a profound sense of control over their time, their money, and their decisions. They save without guilt. They spend with intention. Every financial choice they make is solely theirs, aligned with their own values and priorities. There's no compromise, no financial guessing game, and no emotional toll tied to money matters. Just clarity and peace. Ultimately, the truth is this: relationships in old age are not just about love. They are about logistics, responsibility, and the delicate balance between companionship and independence. If you value financial stability, emotional freedom, and the ability to shape your life on your own terms, then staying independent may not be a lonely choice. It may be the most empowering one you ever make. Final thoughts: as you grow older, every decision you make carries more weight. You've lived long enough to know what matters to you and what no longer does. While society often paints companionship as the ultimate key to happiness, the truth is that not all partnerships lead to peace. Sometimes they lead to exhaustion, entanglement, and quiet suffering that no one else sees. Ask yourself, are you living the kind of life that truly brings you joy? Or are you maintaining relationships out of habit, fear, or a sense of duty? It's a difficult question, but an essential one. Everyone's path is different. For some, love in later life is a blessing. For others, solitude brings a kind of joy and freedom they never expected. What matters most is that you choose consciously, that your life, especially in your later years, is shaped by what you need, not what others expect. Because aging isn't about following a script. It's about rewriting your own. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If this video has given you something to think about, please leave a comment below and share one insight that stood out to you and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your voice matters to us. Reading your thoughts inspires and motivates our team more than you know. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. Hit the like button, share this video with someone who might need to hear it, and turn on the bell so you never miss our next conversation. Until next time, take care of yourself. You deserve peace, clarity, and a life that truly belongs to you.